presentation mode.
Oh, you'll want to put it in presentation mode first.
Before I share? Okay.
Yeah. And if it's not working for you, I can always share it on this side.
Display settings.
And I'm giving everybody just a little bit to pour in here. We are literally every like 2 seconds getting a notification somebody else has signed up. So I don't want to wait too long, but at the same time, we want to give people time to join the call. I'm so excited y'all are here. I could not be more thrilled about this collaboration with Anna and Barbie. Just as soon as I met them, I knew they were people that I wanted to support their journey and wanted to have come alongside me in mind. We all have a heart to help job seekers and get accurate information out. So one of the reasons I partnered with them was to partner with other people who have a background in staffing or HR. And I think that's really important when you have people giving you advice on finding a job, that you are listening to people who have been part of the hiring process and understand how recruiters find job seekers and what kind of searches they do so that you can get in front of them. And so I love that we are kind of all tackling that together. And everything that you're going to hear today has been proven through best practices, and you're going to be blown away by Anna and Barbie. So I'm just here.
Andy, what do I press again when I'm in presentation mode?
Okay, hey, I'm going to share my screen with you real quick and show you kind of.
Hold on, let me get out of here. Sorry, I'm technologically challenged.
You're good. So instead of going to presentation mode where you're getting those notes on it, see this little button down at the bottom?
Can't see anything yet.
Okay.
Can't see your screen yet, Andy.
Oh,
Okay,
there you go.
Okay.
All right. So this little button down at the bottom that's like on the slide bar, and I'm going to have to turn, let me close Outlook because I don't know if y'all can see all my messages popping up or hear them chiming. But those are people who are signing up for the workshop. So anyway, this little button right here will take it where you start the slideshow from the slide that you're on.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And then that way it'll pop up and you can just share that one. And then you can alt tab to get back because it'll take up your full screen. Make sense?
Yeah, but once I do that, it takes up both my screens and I can't get back to Zoom to share with you.
That's why you hit alt tab. So when you hit alt tab, it's going to show you all of your windows open, and keep hitting tab until it highlights Zoom.
Ah, nice. Okay. No, I got it.
I see some familiar faces.
Does that look right?
Yep, it looks great.
Okay, let's just hope I can redo that.
This time. You've got it.
All right, thanks for that little lesson.
Anytime. So y'all didn't know y'all were going to find out about Zoom too.
So huge news. I finally figured out that I have LinkedIn Live access.
Woohoo!
So 2021 is going to be amazing.
I'm still hostage negotiating with them. I think they're mad at me now because they closed the ticket and I just go and reopen it.
So I'll show you a hack later. This new connection, her name is Sabrina. She sent me a link and she was like, it's almost where you go in to put a ticket, but then I started messing around with a third-party access, and I clicked into StreamYard and went through the process, and then it said go live on LinkedIn. So I get to test it out later.
Yeah, I want to know about that because there's some things that we want to do. Like we're going to be doing a podcast next year. I've already told Barbie I need her help, and I definitely want yours to do the Truth About Your Job Search podcast. Yeah. And we're going to start myth busters out here and debunking some of this information about hidden job markets. And
there's a lot of information flying around. It can be very noisy for job seekers, for sure.
Absolutely. And I just struggle with some of it and I get really protective. So, so let's go ahead, and I'm going to have the coaches while we have people streaming in here. I am Andi Cook. I am the owner of Maximize Your Job Search. We're a job search strategy firm. We help people write resumes. That's kind of what I'm most known for, is building resumes that are ATS compliant. We just celebrated 107 landings since May, and we're super excited about that number. And to put it in perspective, I came from one of the top recruiting companies in the US, and they have 10 active recruiters on the floor who together had 150 landings this year. And so to celebrate 107 is huge. I would love to eclipse them just because I'm competitive like that. But just know that what we are teaching because we believe in it. And so out of those 107 landings, 48% now landed through online applications. So all the coaches that tell you don't bother applying online, we teach a little bit different strategy. So we also help with LinkedIn and interview coaching, but I have partnered with some of the best coaches here to pick up that other side. And so I do free tips on my website as well as on my profile. So that is a little bit about me. I have a background as a technical recruiter and an aviation and engineering recruiter as well. So Anna, you're on.
Yeah. Hey, everyone. My name is Anna Morgan, owner of Career BFF. I help job seekers network, market themselves, and ultimately find opportunities that align with their purpose and passion. I basically teach social job searching. I do resumes, LinkedIn optimization, personal branding, and my background is heavy in sales, and I was an agency headhunter for 10 plus years and spent 2+ years in corporate. So I have a unique perspective as a recruiter from both sides, not only the agency side, but also the corporate side. And that's really how I help my clients gain traction with recruiters, get noticed, and start moving opportunities forward more quickly than they might if they're just out there trying to figure out things on their own. So I'm super glad to be here, and it's such an honor to partner with Barbie and Andi on these initiatives. So super fun when women collaborate and support each other. It's so awesome.
Crown straighteners.
Yes.
I love it. I'm so excited you're here. And guys, I'm telling y'all, Anna is the person to follow on LinkedIn. Her content is just off the charts. And
I have a lot of fun.
Oh, you do amazing. So, so maybe the best person ever in the history of forever that I've heard on interviewing is the one and only Miss Barbie Winterbottom. Barbie, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. Well, thank you. That's quite an introduction. I appreciate that. I don't know. I'm so distracted by the dings and the dongs of everybody coming. I've done this a million times, and I never normally hear the doorbell ringing. So it's super distracting. I don't know how we make that go away.
Let me see if I can figure that out.
So anyway, aside from that, can y'all hear the dings? Is it just me? Am I the only one who can hear it?
I mean, I could have fun with you right now and tell you we don't hear them, but we do.
Okay. It's driving me crazy. Thank you for having me. I am the CEO and founder of the Business of HR. I have 20 some years in the HR space with deep roots in talent acquisition, specifically in high volume recruiting. I have helped facilitate the hiring of over 25,000 folks throughout my career. And obviously that's not individual one-on-one hires. That's, there's a lot of volume baked into there. I have spent years training interviewers and hiring managers and talent acquisition teams on how to build proper selection tools and process, how to properly interview, how to help candidates understand what they need to bring to the table in order to deliver a great interview. And recently I launched a training course for candidates called Crush It. And it is all about really deep diving the interview process so that you understand what hiring managers and interviewers are looking for in your responses, and how to frame your responses, how to build and tell your stories through anchoring your information to behavioral competencies. And I'm a firm believer in the more you know, the more confidence you will have. And so I built the Crush It program because, much like Andi and Anna, I was super frustrated with all the really bad interview advice I was seeing out there online, and all the not necessarily bad, but very superficial. It's one thing to say, go into your interview and be more confident. That's great, but how? Like, I could sit here and tell you to be all of these things, but until you understand the process, the framework, and what the interviewers are looking for, it's very difficult to go in and feel confident. So that is a little bit of my story anyway. So I'm super excited to be here. Thank you all. And I am extremely honored to share the platform with Anna and Andi. So, and we are all color coordinated. Yay.
We are. So we were going to do matching shirts and then life happened.
Oh, look at Anna. Look at Anna with her Wonder Woman.
I'm telling you, she wins.
It's
so
just,
we kind of matched though, Barbie, and we didn't plan it. So I'm just saying, I noticed that.
Yep.
I love it. Well, hey, let's get started. I think Paula's watching the room and I did get that chime turned off. So that should fix that. I have never tried to turn it off before, so I'm glad that you brought that up. I forget that it's an option now. I will always turn it off. So let me pull up my presentation here. Let's talk resumes, guys. All right. So this is what I call unlocking the ATS. Let's just kind of break down what the ATS is. The ATS is a computer. It doesn't have personal feelings about you. It doesn't have, it doesn't discriminate. It's a computer. It's a program built through machine learning so that you can match a resume to a job description and say, is this candidate good? There's a lot of times people kind of look at it from one of two ways. Some say it's designed to screen 96% of candidates out. Some say it's designed to screen 4% of candidates in. Regardless of how you look at that, the math is the same. It is designed for the purpose of organizing the job search and helping HR teams and recruiters to process a number of applicants. Before COVID, the average job posting had 300 applications. Currently, we're at 1,100 per job posting. So if you wonder why sometimes you get ghosted, think about trying to reply to 1,100 people. And even if that only took 1 minute, 1,100 minutes equals a lot of hours in your day. So while I'm never an advocate for recruiters ghosting, I wasn't that type of recruiter. At the same time, I want you to kind of temper your expectation and don't let that derail you. Let's just talk about how you can stand out. We're going to talk about targeting resumes, kind of the data and science behind it. My goal in life is to be the Brene Brown of job seekers, to bring you the data and science behind why we do what we do. I teach a digital hiring process. So let's kind of dive into this. Were you around for any of these milestones? Like back in 1989, when there were paper applications. In 1989, email applications and where you could send your resume to somebody just came on scene. The first job board, Monster, came on scene, followed by NetStart, Career Mosaic, and Craigslist. That happened in 1994. The first applicant tracking system hit the US. Well, it started in Canada and it hit the US around the late 90s. RecruitSoft landed in the US and Monster aired the Super Bowl commercial that some people may remember, that overnight changed the process that we use, because hiring managers and HR teams everywhere were going, oh wait, we get this. We could actually get applications and get a better talent pool without having to go pound the pavement, pick up the yellow pages. Recruiters used to go through yellow pages and just randomly call people, true story. And so you had no way of knowing what people did. And it was a very different process. And it was what they called smile and dial. Thank God I was not a recruiter during that time. Although I've worked with agencies that still try to do that. And so LinkedIn was founded in 2003 as a direct response to the change in the job search process in the digital market. So to bring people a way to come together and network in a professional way. That was the whole reason it was designed. Taleo entered the scene, and that is one of the most used. Now Workday is on scene, and Workday has an entirely different algorithm than the others, but there are currently more than 300 different ATSs on the market, but they are used by over 90% of companies. In 2020, ATS is the only way to apply to a job at the majority of companies, and you hit an ATS if you apply on LinkedIn, if you apply on a job board somewhere, if you apply on a corporate website. All of that is routed through an applicant tracking system in one way or another. The only way around an applicant tracking system is to network your way into a company. And even then, oftentimes they want to send you through the ATS because their onboarding process is linked to it. Okay. It was designed to automate candidate screening, to match candidates to jobs with an auto match feature, and to automate candidate communication. So there is a button that says, hey, reject all of these candidates. It's just not used enough, honestly. And object relational mapping is a really fancy way to say how a computer looks at a resume and pulls out the information and puts it in their system. So when you have to retype all of that stuff from your resume, it means that your resume was in a format that the applicant tracking system couldn't read it, or they have a 1994 version of an ATS and it just can't read anything. Those are options as well. Okay, I know companies claim that in 2020, they can parse out tables, they can parse out columns, but you don't know what version of a ATS that a company is using. So the software upgrades are expensive and implementations are labor intensive. So companies don't automatically upgrade every year like an iPhone. That's not actually how it works. It costs a lot of money. So if something's working, people may not upgrade. And we definitely want to kind of have a resume that goes across all ATSs. The applicant tracking system scores your resume based on how the text in your resume matches the text in a job description. A quick way to tell if an ATS can read your resume is copy and paste it. You can actually do it two ways. You can copy and paste the text over into like a LinkedIn post, don't post it, but you can put it in there and look at everything it strips out. That can't be read by the ATS. Another way to do that is just to copy and paste it over into Notepad and look how it, see how it feels and looks inside of Notepad. That's how the applicant tracking system sees it. If you notice yourself having to retype that information, it may be that you're using a resume that the ATS can't read. Here are your deal breakers for the ATS, right? Italics, underlines, columns, text boxes, headers and footers, tables, graphs, icons, emojis should have never been part of a resume anyway. I don't know why that's a thing. Hyperlinks, more than one horizontal line, pictures, logos, slashes, or trademark symbols and copyrights, okay? And I'm going to explain that to you here in just a second on why those last ones are really important. All right, Mythbusters. Let's talk about hyperlinks. There's this huge thing that all ATSs see your hyperlink as a virus. Here's the truth. If the hyperlink points directly to a full URL, so the full web address, the ATS can handle that. We see that in technology with GitHub repositories that we link, portfolios are linked to LinkedIn profiles. It can see that. It can hyperlink back an email address. But what you can't have is see how this, like this is underlined because it links back to our Maximize Your Job Search website. You can't have that because the ATS can't look at that and see where it's pointing. So it's going, oh, I don't know what to do with that. It will automatically reject you. You'll get one of those emails within 2 hours that says thanks, but no thanks. Okay. But you can include full www addresses with your LinkedIn, your GitHub, your portfolios, and make sure those are included, but put that www part. Don't try to save space. Like that is very important that you include that. Mythbusters on horizontal lines. The ATS cannot read between two horizontal lines. The reason for that is that it sees them as page borders. So it creates odd page definitions. We use one horizontal line at the very top and we use a smaller margin at the top of the page to offset that so that it doesn't create a weird page definition because we don't need it to score out your contact information anyway, and it won't throw off the second page, okay? So that's why we use that one just for visual appeal. It's what I call picking out curtains. So if there's nothing data or science driven behind having one horizontal line, it like curtains don't change the function of a room, they change how it looks. That's basically picking out curtains. All right, separators and joiners. And the ATS scores words, right? So here on Program Manager, it can't score out manager or business because it sees that as one word. That's why we don't use slashes on a resume. Same thing in a LinkedIn profile. You can't have those slashes. We use spaces in between to make sure the applicant tracking system or the Boolean search can pull those words individually. So we use separators like pipe symbols and similar to this Dallas, Texas, and then my email address, which is like the longest email address ever, sorry. But we use those to separate text. Remember, your resume scored. So you've got your job description, your resume, how well do they match? In the previous example, the score would be project 1, manager/business 1, analyst 1. So manager/business would be seen as one word. Neither, we wouldn't pick up project manager, we wouldn't pick up business analyst. So same thing with trademarks. Trademarks only work if the recruiter is searching for the word with a trademark. It needs to be exact. So we have to think about how is the recruiter going to search for this? Same thing with like abbreviations and acronyms. So if you use MFG and the recruiter searching for manufacturing, they're not going to find you. So think like a recruiter. What ways are they going to use to find you in your LinkedIn profile or your resume on a job board? So kind of think like a recruiter there. Matching words based on or to the job description. Look for words that are repeated in the job description. So yes, 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 this is going to be asked and I'm going to answer it now. I want you tailoring your resumes for each application, but it should take you less than 15 minutes. So if it's taking an hour and a half, you're doing it wrong. I need you to call us because we need to work on that. And we want to make it a seamless process. You should only be having to really tailor the top section. You don't have to go through your whole resume, have your key bullet points and switch those out for the roles that you're applying for. But look for words that are repeated so you know really what they're looking for. Check for words that are bolded or underlined or in all caps. And then also look at the required skills. If it says must have finance experience, they're not willing to hostage negotiate about that, guys. They want you to have finance experience. So don't spend 3 hours applying for that job. If you have a referral and they're saying, hey, go ahead and apply, this is preferred, that's great. But if you're applying with 1,100 people and they're saying this is a must have and you don't have it, I'm not a huge fan of spending time. Like, I wouldn't tailor your resume at all. If you just feel, hey, I'm going to shoot for the stars, I'm going to throw my name in the hat, great, do that, but don't spend a lot of time on it because chances of you getting it, like, you should play the lottery. I'll just leave that there. So round 1, if you look at the application as the first round of interview, the job description is the questions, your resume needs to be the answer to those questions. It would be like going to a car dealership and saying, hey, I really, really want a sports car. And they're like, well, we have a sale on minivans. And you're going, but I don't want a minivan. When you give all this great information that is not what they're looking for, they don't know what to do with that. It's like, hey, that's really great that you have that, but not at all what we do here. So you have to make sure that your answer to the questions, and Barbie's going to teach you a little bit about interviewing, you've got to make sure that there's a direct response and a connection between what they're asking and what you're answering. Remember that when we go through a resume, we skim top to bottom, not left to right. So the first 3 to 4 words of a sentence are the most important. So we use those 3 words to really tell your career story, which your resume should be a summary of your career story. The highlights, like, they don't care that you filed in 1984 if you're looking to do something that doesn't involve filing. So make sure it's relevant. And then use bolding strategically to guide people's eyes down the page. Don't capitalize random words because just because you capitalize it doesn't make it important. Make it easy to skim. And then remember that you're building a brand based on your words only. This is where our clients need the most assistance is in branding. Select verbs that support your professional brand. Are you a driver? Are you analytical, a team player, or a leader? You're going to use descriptors. Remember that recruiters search for you by nouns. They don't search for you by verbs. So get creative with your verbs to tell your story and make sure the keyword nouns are in your resume, okay? Bullet points should answer what you did, who you partnered with, what technology you used, what you accomplished, and how it impacted business. And after the presentation, I'll drop the slides into the chat so that you guys can have them. If you're scrambling to take notes, I see a couple of you. I do talk fast. I do. That's true. Common mistakes is inconsistent language, past tense, present tense. Make sure that you've conjugated your verbs properly. Watch spelling and grammar. This is what we call cuts, capitalization, usage, punctuation, and spelling when we're teaching it at the schools. Be wary of unclear language. When I went through the editing process of my book, the word I got dinged on most was things. So I would say, and things like that, or, and she would ding it every time, unclear, unclear. So I learned to be much more specific and find words that tell my story better. Watch for redundancy. We see this a lot. And be aware of empty white space that draws your eye away from the natural flow of how you skim information. When you're skimming, think back to college days and when you were cramming for finals and you're just reading the headers and the vocabulary words, okay? So that's kind of the basics of your applicant tracking system, resumes, and why we do what we do. I know that was a lot of information. I am going to drop the slides in, but I didn't want to go too far over on Anna's presentation. So we'll open it up for questions at the very end, but I'll move into Anna now.
All right, so I put it in presentation mode and then hit Control Alt. Is that correct?
Yes, are you back on Zoom?
Hang on one sec. Control Alt. Control Alt, not working. Hold on.
No, Alt Tab.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, I didn't even catch it when you said the first time. Alt Tab and then tab back over until you see Zoom.
Is that good?
Yes, great job. I'm going to mute out while you're presenting.
All right, perfect. Okay, so thanks again. We're going to just dive right in because I have 21 slides, which is about 1 minute per slide. So if you have questions, save them for afterwards or schedule a call with me and I will gladly answer your questions. So we're going to start from the top down. The whole purpose is to make it easy for hiring managers and recruiters to understand who we are, who we serve, and how we could potentially make an impact with their company. So our cover image is like the modern day business card. So what I recommend is use this valuable real estate, which is like a big billboard on LinkedIn, to showcase who you are as a professional. I always invite some personality, some creativity, because people hire people that they can connect with, right? It doesn't matter that you have all the certifications and all the degrees and all the years of experience. If we can't relate to you, you're not going to be as much of a top of mind candidate as some of the other people that are dropping into our DMs and our emails. And when we see visually your profile, how does that stand out against other people in your niche? So have a big title, have a tagline that you are known for. You know, I'm known for being a career BFF. You know, I support people, I empower people, I cheer people on, I give them tools and tips to help them be successful. So with my clients, I use a program called Canva, where you can create a LinkedIn banner. It's very simple. They have lots of options, but you do have to resize it correctly because what Canva offers is not correct. So the right size is 1584 by 396. And you just hit resize and then it'll fit right into your cover image perfectly. Again, use some keywords that are going to be consistent through that whole process, and then have a call to action. You know, schedule a call with me, connect with me here, follow me here, learn more about X. So really showcase, you know, who you are and who you serve. So then diving right into the LinkedIn profile picture, you know, this area of your profile, I've heard, gets about 19% of the time that a viewer spends on your profile. So you want to make sure that you have a really nice picture. I recommend that it be nice and zoomed in so we can kind of see that vibration and energy behind your eyes. So you want to avoid family pictures, sunglasses, selfies, stock photos, company logos, because we are not going to connect with those things as much as we would with just seeing you as a human being. You can test your photo out on a website called photofeeler.com and get feedback. But, you know, our cell phones, yeah.
Hey, they're only seeing, or we're only seeing the front slide. So like
sorry.
our banner. No, that's okay. I just wanted you to know.
Yeah, let me move forward. Well, look at that. Is that better?
Yes. So beautiful.
You can see the cover image now?
Yes, absolutely.
All right, now I'm in the right spot. Okay. So back to the LinkedIn profile picture, just some general do's and don'ts. You can test your photo out on Photo Feeler. And I just encourage, we have such good cameras on our phones now, just stand on a nice colored back wall with some good lighting and, make have someone in your family make you smile, take a great picture and go with that. Or if you have the resources to get a professional headshot, that's always a good idea. And if you have not updated your LinkedIn profile or your picture in 2 years or more, it's definitely time. Okay, so the next thing that is really important is your headline. And this ties into the keyword searches that Andi is talking about, because LinkedIn is a search engine, just like Google, just like YouTube, just like Amazon. So we have to jam pack that headline with the right keyword searches that we, the recruiters, when we are in LinkedIn Recruiter or other platforms, that will help us find you. So an optimized headline means you're going to come up in more searches. It's going to give you more views. You're going to get more incoming connections, which is going to result in more opportunities. So the number one mistake that people make is they just put their current position and their company. So the other mistake people make is they put in, seeking opportunities, looking for a new role, open to opportunities. And you don't need to do that, because if you decide to use the green circle, we're going to see that you're open to opportunities. So that is something to consider when you're building out your headline. So you want to jam pack that first part of your headline with those keyword searches. And at the end, I recommend, here's a little hack. If you edit your headline on your mobile device, you actually get more characters than you do on the desktop. So test that out and see if that works for you. An exercise I recommend that you can do is, as you're applying to positions, you can basically make a list of, 10 or 20 key titles that you feel that you're qualified for, and then pick the 3 most common words. A lot of people will do one of those like word clouds to see what stands out the most, and then lean into those 3 keywords, and then add that mini sales pitch, or what you're personally known for. And if there's an opportunity to include real numbers and results, you can do that as well. So to give you some context, if I was looking for another corporate recruiting position, I would highlight senior recruiter, talent acquisition, filled 220 positions in 2019. So something like that, that's going to make me stand out against other recruiters in my space, because people who are hiring in a corporation are going to go, man, she filled 120 positions. That's going to save the company over $1.2 million in agency fees. I want to work with this woman. So that's the power of really leaning into that mini sales pitch at the end of your headline. So then we come down to the about section. And this is one of my favorite sections, because you can really showcase who you are as a human being and a professional. And this year, one of the things that we have learned is that, 1, we can work from home, and 2, we've been invited into people's lives more because we are virtual. We're dealing with virtual learning and kids being home and all of those different things. So don't be afraid to tell a story in your about section. So again, this is super valuable real estate on your profile, where you can really hook these recruiters and hiring managers that land on your profile. So you really want that first attention grabbing hook in the about section. For mine, I talk about how I accidentally fell into a corporate water fountain, and that's how and I go into how I got into sales. And that attention grabbing hook, I get so many DMs wanting to know about that story. But what it did is it invited people in to get to know me. So who you are, who you help, some of your strengths, like I see a lot of people include, their strength finder results, and then have that call to action, telling the viewer what they need to do when they get to the end of the about section. And I also recommend that you put your contact details there, because recruiters are moving really fast. And if we've fallen in love with you from the cover image to the headline to the about section, I want to pick up the phone or send you a text or send you an email. So the more times we see that information, it makes it easy for us to get a hold of you. Now, where Andy said resumes are not great for white space, LinkedIn loves white space, loves emojis, loves bullet points. So don't be afraid to use those types of things. And really showcase a blend of that personal and professional experience, and then tie it into your leadership voice. So be creative, test it out, try different things, and really maximize that space. And here are a couple of examples. I don't know if you guys can see it very well, but some of my clients really tied in some of their personal passions, like Alan, who is a knitter, but she's also an executive assistant. So she drew this really beautiful analogy between how she is like, you know, the yarn that keeps the organizations together as an executive assistant. And I can tell you so confidently, things like this land in recruiters' bodies so well, because when we're sitting in the bullpen and we're like, okay, I got an executive assistant job, who should I call? And the first thing I'm going to say is Alan, the knitter, because that's how we remember things. So don't be afraid to put some personality in these about sections. I get excited about this. Michael Thomas, he was a big fan of Top Chef. So he tied in everything about how he was a commercial facilities management professional, and what ingredients he used, and what the judges would say about him to really highlight that experience. And then David, he's an HR professional, and he has, this, he walks us through his, basically his career progression, addressing some movement because he was a part of a layoff and had done some contract work, but he really lets us in and says, what he's doing when he's not serving organizations. He's, volunteering with Habitat for Humanity. He's renovating his home. He's running his twins around for school activities. Again, these little things are relatable and really what can make you be memorable to the people that are viewing your profile. All right, so once you hit the about section, then you come down into your work experience. And I really don't recommend that you cut and paste your bullet points from your resume. I like to see it summarized with a little bit of an understanding of who the organization is and the main objective of what you did in the role. And try, if you can, keep it above the see more button. That's even better because, again, recruiters are moving really fast. We're looking for movement, industries that you've worked in, and then just general career progression. And if you have gray boxes on your resume, that either means that the company does not have a business page, or it means that you may have mistyped the company name. So I always recommend, if you have gray boxes, go back and retype the organization in, and you might be pleasantly surprised that the company will actually show up with that logo. Why is that important? The logos and not having gray boxes adds more legitimacy to the profile, especially nowadays when we're battling so many fake profiles on the platform. So something to think about. Your education, if you have been out of high school for more than 5 years, I don't recommend that you don't need that on your resume or on your profile. So be specific as possible. And then if you've been out of school for 5 years or more, no need to include your GPA, but definitely highlight the schools that you have attended, because the alumni connection, and again, organizations that may have a lot of success, maybe they specialize in packaging, and so they love to recruit people from Clemson or Michigan State or something like that. That's going to be helpful. Your featured section, we talked about this a little bit at the beginning. This is an area where you can showcase your work samples. So if you're a blogger, a photographer, a public speaker, any of those things, you can actually add that media into your featured section without actually doing a post. And when you have documents in your featured section, you can also include your resume or your cover letter, your letters of recommendation. All of this information is really going to help recruiters understand your story, and it also equips them to effectively market you because they have more data to tell your story. So, and And if you make a post that does, well, that you're really proud of on LinkedIn, you can also pin that in your featured section, which when someone lands on your profile, they can easily click through those sections and really get to know you very quickly. Volunteer experience, 41% of companies find volunteer work just as valuable as work experience. So especially for people who are just entering the workforce, definitely leverage this area because it is a great conversation starter. And again, so many people reach out to me about my volunteer lacrosse experience. It's just, you never know how these things are going to land with people. So definitely test it out. All right, so how to land 2 times more interviews with LinkedIn skills. So the algorithm is going to be ranking your profile. So when you go to apply to a position, it's actually going to show you how you match. And that will help you, adjust your resume. Maybe you want to add some things to your profile, but it's definitely something to look at to see how well you rank in that job, which will equip you with maybe writing a even more well-written direct message to the hiring manager to say, look, I have these 6 things, but I'm learning these 2 things that maybe are not on the job description. It just gives you some ammunition to have a meaningful conversation and just kind of know where you stand. Recommendations. I don't know if y'all know this, but recruiters love recommendations because especially agency headhunters, we are salesmen and women, and we need like good stories so we can pick up the phone and market you to that hiring manager. So many times I would pull little snippets from the recommendations because then I can see what your hiring manager has said about you, or what how they're telling your story and why you're awesome. So the easiest way to get recommendations is actually to give recommendations. So take inventory of people that you've worked with in the past and write them in recommendation. And 90% of the time, they will turn around the favor and do it for you. But also, if someone does write you a recommendation, it is helpful to give them some bullet points on what they want, what you want them to highlight about you. So there's consistency with your personal brand on your profile. And so again, if a recruiter sees 2 different hiring managers basically saying similar things about you, it really solidifies that you are that candidate that can make that kind of impact in the organization they're considering you for. Okay, I've seen in a couple of the profiles that were sent over, just a reminder, if you have not turned off your people also viewed part of your profile, it's really important because recruiters have squirrel brains and we're super ADD. And when I see that people also viewed over there, if I'm not in love with Andi, I'm going to go, oh, who's Adriana? So it's a super simple, just slide of, change it to no, and then it will pop up and say people you may know, which is a great way to add connections. Okay. Am I going too fast? Okay. All right. And then customize your URL. I've seen a couple URLs come through the chat that definitely have an opportunity to be tightened up. So basically, if you go to your profile on the right-hand side, you will see edit public profile. And you just go in there and you take out the numbers and just put your name, or if you have a common name, you may have to add like _1. But this is important also for your resume, that it's a clean URL and doesn't, drag on the resume, and it just looks much nicer. So something to consider there. Okay, so this is a hot topic, and I honestly, and Barbie, Andi, feel free to jump in. You can set your job seeking preferences, and LinkedIn makes you have this open to work thing. I don't think that it has necessarily been used in the way LinkedIn has intended it to be. My hope was that people who are employed or in hiring positions, when they see that, they would be more motivated to be of service and support job seekers and career changers. But I've also seen some, feedback that it has a little bit of a desperation energy behind it. So with everything like LinkedIn, test. Try it out for a couple weeks, see how it works for you, take it off for a couple weeks and, keep track of those metrics. I was playing around with it the other day, and I think like I could alert people that I was open to contract recruiting positions without putting the circle on there. So definitely double check that in your job seeking preferences.
Just to piggyback on what you're saying there, what I teach on that is right in line with what you're saying. There's not data for or against it yet because it's too new. Just remember when you're making your decision, if you choose that only recruiters can see it, it's only recruiters who have LinkedIn Recruiter. So it's not a recruiter title that makes them able to see that. It's the actual platform of LinkedIn Recruiter that they would be the only ones who could look at your profile and tell you're open to work and what you're open for. But I'm with Anna on this. I don't think it's being used how it was intended. Your hopes and mine were in alignment that it would kind of be this rally to bring back the economy together. So I'm 100% in line with what you're saying.
Yeah. So it's, again, test it out and see if it works for you. So there have been a lot of events coming up, and, like today, we're so glad that you're here, but, you want to share your URL in the chat. And after the virtual networking piece, after this event, make sure that you go back and keep track of who you connected with here, and then schedule a coffee chat with them. Send them a voice note, send them a video message, test those things out, because this is a safe container, right? We all know that we're looking to level up our personal branding and our job search strategy. So you can test these things out with each other and see how it works, right? So that's your homework, everybody. And then 2 strategies. If there is nothing that you remember from today, I want to recommend that you add 10 connections a day and make 5 to 10 comments a day, and you will see your visibility on the platform absolutely increase. And I have tested this personally over the last year, and I 100% know it works. And my clients get so tired of me telling them this, but if you're afraid to post content or do anything like that, commenting is a complete sustainable strategy for LinkedIn. So definitely start there, especially if you're a little timid about social media. If you're more on the introvert side and you're not dancing on videos on LinkedIn like I am, it's definitely something to consider. And, I love Steve Jobs. And this is when I'm telling you to think about this concept when you are connecting with people, because LinkedIn is like an entire conference room. So we can't connect the dots looking forward. We can only connect them looking backwards. So we have to trust that it's karma, intuition, or something, that these connections will align at some point. And I bet many people here have had this situation where some of the most unlikely connections have been the best referral partners or lead generators or anything like that. So definitely keep that in mind as you're commenting, building content, and try to really build trust on the platform. And you do that by engaging and just being other focused. I'm very much about the law of reciprocity and supporting people on the platform. When we do that, it comes back threefold in that effort. So a couple of things, you can test out any of your comments or your content on the Hemingway app. Clever, sarcastic, and really high-level academia type does not convert well on LinkedIn. So, we have to remember there's 66 million people or more on the platform. So we need to write in a way that people can understand it. So just something to consider. Minimize the I, and then use the white space available and bullet points to highlight what is actually important. Okay. And this is a lot. That's it. Time warp LinkedIn presentation.
Love
Sorry
it.
if I went over.
No, you did fantastic.
Okay. I feel like I was talking 90 miles an hour.
I do it all the time. So I always tell people I'd rather talk fast and give you lots of information. I forgot to push record on mine, but I got yours all recorded. So
okay.
we can send this link out. And I put my presentation in. So we will send the link out so you can replay that. And when you're watching it, then you can always slow down the video when you're
Yeah,
replaying.
my video guy, like,
Exactly.
you just turn it
Exactly.
down a little bit. Yeah.
Love it. Amazing job. Great content, Anna. Let's switch gears and head to interviewing. So now you've had the resume, your LinkedIn profile got attention, you're in the interview, and Barbie takes over.
Yes. So I'm going to do this a little bit differently. I don't have slides by intention. I have slides, but I was like, nah, I don't want to use them today. What I want to do is kind of talk to you about the interview structure, and then if we have time, I'll take some questions. So one thing that's important to understand is that you create a through line with your messaging. And what I mean by that is when you start, if you go all the way back to when you were looking for the job and you saw the job posting, and you likely looked at the company website, and embedded in that company website, there's typically an About Us page. Sometimes companies now have culture pages. There's their jobs and their career section of their page, of their website. You want to scour this information, look also at their LinkedIn, anywhere online you can get information about the organization, and identify themes within the language of the job posting, the website, and anything that they're putting out there. These themes are typically going to be reflective of the company values, their behavioral competencies, their leadership principles, whatever. They can call them lots of different things, but those are what the organization holds dear. That is how they're defining themselves. And you want to make sure that, one, you authentically align with those. I encourage you to make sure that you actually do have alignment there, and that you don't just go in and fake it because you need a job, because that typically doesn't ever work long term. So once you have found those competencies, understand when you're responding to questions, you want to make sure that your responses reflect those words, those competencies, those behavioral elements that are important to the organization. So that's when I say you want a through line. You want a through line that is going to continually reinforce why you're a good fit for that position, right? And that the best way is to anchor what you do to the core values, competencies, and behaviors that that company holds dear to them. And within the job posting, there are likely even more clues as to what is important for that particular role, right? So someone applying for a role in finance is likely going to see the word analytical, detail, the words detail oriented, specific words that are going to apply for that particular type of job. It's very important that when you're interviewing, you're able to bring forward responses that show them how you have exhibited being analytical, how you have been data driven, how you've used data to influence and inform decisions. So that through line is incredibly important. So how do you do that? How do you create your stories so that you can, in a relaxed way, share it back to them? And in the Crush It training course, in the workbook, we go through this in a lot of detail. We first start off by learning how to tell a story, right? Does anybody know, I'm just going to ask this question, does anybody know what is the most widely read, widely purchased book of all time?
7 Habits of Highly
The Bible.
Successful People.
It's the Bible, right? And it's the Bible because, not necessarily because of its religious content, although I'm not diminishing that, so please don't misconstrue my words here, but it is a book of stories. And if you think about how, as humans, our brains are hardwired to learn and retain information through the art of storytelling. And if you think back hundreds of years before the printing press, before ink and quills, before we could write anything down, history was shared generation to generation through the art of storytelling and song. And song is just another way of storytelling. So that is the best way for you to get your information to connect to the interviewer, is to make sure you bring forward your stories. So practice, and this is one of the things I have folks I coach do. Write out, think about 5 of your most memorable experiences at work. Just any 5. Like if you were going to go out with a group of friends and tell, your old war stories from work, what would those stories be? What would you talk about? What would you tell? And they don't even have to be interview appropriate right now. I just want you to get to thinking about how to tell a story. And a story needs a beginning and context. It needs a middle and specificity, and it needs an end and a result. So anytime you think about a story, you want to think about it like that: beginning, context, middle, specifics, end, result, and possible learning. Then what you want to do is you want to look at behavioral competencies, and you can Google them. It's easy to find. I put together a list of what I believe are the most commonly used behavioral competencies, but you can, like I said, you can Google them. And then go back to those stories and see if you can identify any behavioral competencies that are bubbling up in your stories. When you look back at the work you've done and your accomplishments, it's the how you accomplish the work that matters. While you absolutely want results and numbers and percentages reflected on your resume, right? If you're looking for a human resources position, you want your resume to say, worked on a program to reduce company attrition by 10% year over year. That's a great bullet point for a resume. That's not a great interview response. It's too superficial. It doesn't tell me anything. What I want to know is how you did it. I feel like I've got something on my lip and it's driving me crazy. Sorry, it's like tickling me. Probably cat hair. What you have to understand is in an interview, it's how you got to the results that matters almost more than the results themselves. And that's indicative of the one question that freaks everybody out is, tell me about a time when you failed. Tell me about a time when you didn't succeed. And that question sends people into a meltdown over and over and over again. So I'm here to tell everybody on this call, you need to have an answer to that question, because you will be asked that question. It's not an if you're going to be asked that question, you will be asked about failure. But try to reframe it, because it doesn't mean catastrophic failure where the company was on the brink of disaster. It could mean that you simply missed an important detail on something. It could mean that you didn't get it 100% right. I actually recorded a video earlier today that I'll push out on LinkedIn in sometime, I don't know when, but anyway, where I talk about someone on my team who used to report to me, pulled data. She pulled the wrong data. I didn't audit it. We sent information out and it was sent out in the wrong way. That's a failure. Did the company come to a screeching halt? No. Did anybody lose their job? No. But it was a failure. The reason people ask you about failure isn't because they want to embarrass you. It's not because they want to see how badly you screwed something up. What they want to know is, how did you recover? What did you do in response? How did you discover that there was a mistake? What did you do in response to the mistake? And then what did you learn from the mistake? That's what they want to hear. So try to reframe the word failure into mistake or a miss, because that's really what they're interested in. And remember, we're not living in Machiavellian times. the ends does not always justify the means. So the how of the work you do is incredibly important. So when you're framing your responses, you've got to get specific. You've got to answer in I. So Anna shared with us on your LinkedIn profile, you want to not say I all the time. 100% agree with that. However, in an interview, I want to hear what you did, right? When we are hired and when we work for an organization and we're on a team or we're in a department, it's drilled into us that it's the team, it's the team, it's the team, it's the team. There's no I in team. Everything is the team, right? So what ends up happening is when people go into interviews, they talk about the team. The team, the team, the team, the team, we, and that's all you hear. But guess what? They're not hiring the team. They're hiring you. So a way to phrase that, and when you think about the beginning and context, the middle and detail, and the end and result, is it's in the beginning when you're starting to phrase your response. I was a member of the human resources team. I was a member of this team. I was a part of this initiative. So you're giving them the context of the situation, right? So when I was on the marketing team, we were launching a new product. So that's the context. I was a member of a 10-person team to launch a new product. My role on that team was to do research, to do market research, and I needed to gather competitive intelligence on 5 competing products. And I did that and then you tell them. So that's how you give them the context, and then you tell them what you were responsible for, and then you go into the details of how you gathered your information. What information did you gather? How did you assimilate it? How did you vet through it? How did you present it? What was the result of your presentation? Did you succeed? Did it fail? What did you learn? How would you do it again differently? That's kind of the way you want to think about responding. And again, you're telling them a story. You want it to be conversational. You want it to flow. You want it to be authentically you. One of the tips that is in the interview course is to create index cards. And you know the packs you can buy of different colors? Most people don't buy those. They only buy the white ones. I encourage you to buy the colored ones for this exercise. And if you can identify 5 core competencies that are your strengths. So maybe one of your core strengths is communication skills, right? You communicate clearly and openly very, very well. Maybe another one is you raise the bar. You challenge the status quo, and you're brave enough and courageous enough to challenge people to want to get better. Maybe another one is frugality, and that you are very careful with spending the company's money. So whatever those are, write out examples that anchor to those competencies based on color. So maybe you have 3 that are on pink cards, and you know that pink is communication. Write out 3 on blue cards, and those 3 are about integrity. Write out 3 on orange cards, and the orange cards are about communication skills. And have your interview cards with you in your interview. You're not cheating. It's your information. You get to have notes. Just like an interviewer takes notes, you get to have notes. So what I encourage folks to do is take these interview cards and write down bullet points on your interview cards that will trigger your memory about your stories. You don't want to write out all the details of your story on your interview card, on your index card, because you won't be able to read it. But write in large print bullet points so that you could look down and there's a heading, right? So Anna's going to say, fell in the fountain, right? That's going to trigger her memory of that story. And then maybe she's going to have 4 bullet points under that trigger her brain on the important elements of that particular story that she wants to make sure she gets across to that interviewer. Hopefully that all made sense. The other thing to do, and this, we talk about this, is, and I encourage people to do this for this purpose only, is, so I just say that with a disclaimer. Watch politicians and celebrities, and for the purpose of hearing the way they respond to questions. If you see a celebrity getting ready to launch a new movie or a new book or a new product, or a politician running for office, no matter what you ask them, they're going to spin that question to tell you what they want you to hear. And a really good friend of mine is a politician, and she's been in politics for years. And she and I were at lunch the other day, and we were talking. She's getting ready to launch a company on training women to get into politics. And we were talking about how you speak in public. And the way she was trained for media training is the exact way I train candidates to interview. When somebody asks you a question, first you want to acknowledge the question. That's a great question. People are really interested in hearing about that. Here's my experience there. Whatever, you want to acknowledge the question and give it a little bit of context. Now, if they ask you something and you don't have that particular experience, or you don't know exactly what they're asking, one, ask for clarification. That's totally fine. Two, if you don't have that example or that exact experience, figure a way to quickly pivot and tell them what you want them to hear. So as an example, if I were asked, this is another post that I'm going to share. Somebody sent me an inbox message today because they wanted to help bring new clients to my roofing business. I got nothing. I have no idea why somebody thinks I'm in the roofing business.
You should hire them.
Yeah, right. So, but if I was in an interview and somebody were to ask me how I put shingles on a roof, I would have no idea. So my response might be, well, while I haven't had that exact experience, what I can tell you is when I'm doing this, the first thing I look at are, what are the supplies I need? What are the dimensions of the project I'm working on? What is the problem I'm trying to solve for? And I then make sure I have everything I need. I begin with the end in mind, right? I look at what is the result, and then I back into it with supplies, timing, tools, resources, etc. And then I start and I check along the way to make sure I'm still on plan, right? So that's a way to acknowledge the question, but then pivot to something you do know, right? And that was kind of a bad example, but there's lots of ways you can do that. Another way to answer the failure question is to spin it and answer it with a strength. So not the failure question, but the weakness question, sorry. Another question you'll be asked about is, tell me what your biggest weakness is. And people hate that question as well. The best way to answer that is to actually use a strength, because as in anything, too much of a good thing is too much of a good thing, right? So here's a real life example for me. If somebody were to say, what is one of your biggest weaknesses? I would say, well, actually, one of my biggest weaknesses is also one of my greatest strengths. I love to do as much as I possibly can. I love my work. I love my clients. I want to be involved in as many things as I can be involved in. And if I'm not absolutely locked into my Outlook calendar, I can easily overcommit. I'm not great at judging how much time something's going to take. I think I can do everything in 20 minutes when it could take 12 hours. So for me, I have to make sure that I am very careful and I don't overcommit to doing more than I can get accomplished within an 8-hour period, because I have so much passion for the work I do and for helping others and for coaching that I want to get as many people in as many sessions in the day as I possibly can. And at times that can not serve me well because I will double book myself. So that's a way of talking about a weakness, but actually tying it to a strength. Does that make sense to you guys? Okay, just want to make sure, because I could talk about this for hours and I just want to make sure you're tracking. All right. So if any of you guys have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. I typically find that at this point, you guys have lots of questions.
Great job, Barbie. That was amazing.
Oh, thank you.
They're the best of the best. This is why they're the Sheroes, guys. So we do have some time for questions, but before people start logging off, I wanted to tell everybody about a way to work with all three of us. So we have been collaborating, and we finally put together something where you could work with all three of us. And I wanted to share that with you. Anna, Barbie, feel free to jump in here if I'm missing anything, but essentially we've put together a package where you would work 1 hour with me collaboratively on your resume. We would build that out.
Oh, there it is. Okay. It was taking a second.
Thanks, sorry. And so you would work with me for 1 hour on Zoom to build a resume together. Then you would move over and work with Miss Anna on your LinkedIn profile, and she's going to help you get all of that set up. Part of the reason we do it in this order is when we go through that Zoom call together on your resume, it's really helping you to remember things that you may have forgotten or overlooked from your past. And then that all prepares you to move on to Barbie. And Barbie, will they work with you one-on-one, or are they going through the Crush It program?
They would go through the Crush It program. So it is a self-paced, all online course. There's a 42-page workbook. There's videos, there's quite a few videos in there. They can, if they wanted to purchase, I do small group coaching every other week, so they could kind of buy up into that if they wanted to, but this particular program is the online course.
Perfect. Perfect. I wanted to make sure I listed that right.
Mm-hmm.
So guys, in order, like if you split all of this out, you would be looking at about 800. We're doing it for 450 together. It is available on, and you can't see this because PowerPoint's crazy, but it's on maximizeyourjobsearch.com. You can actually pay through PayPal. You can check out as a guest if you want to pay with a credit card, but that is available on maximizeyourjobsearch.com. And then we will kind of coordinate all of that. Paula is in the chat. She's dropped her email in there. If you have any questions or want to talk about this, Miss Paula is your go-to person. And so she's who keeps our doors open and our walls standing here at Maximize Your Job Search. So I don't know what we would do without her. So on that note, I'll leave this up for a second and let's go to questions and answers. We've got about 15 minutes, so we'll kind of take those as they come. Anna, I had a question in a private message to me about when people use their LinkedIn profile to do applications like a quick apply on LinkedIn. Mm-hmm. How do the emojis and stuff copy over?
So when someone applies on LinkedIn, if I have a position posted, through Recruiter, even a free service, I get an email. Right. And it says a little summary of the profile, who the person is, and it prompts me to click in to dive into the profile. So I don't see any issue with that. I will say when I was doing high volume recruiting and people were applying through LinkedIn, I did appreciate when the resume came with it. What I'm seeing now is so many places are taking you off of LinkedIn to go to their own ATS to create a profile and all of those things. So that's one reason, if you are an open job seeker and you can have your resume publicly shared, that does help when you're applying specifically to positions on LinkedIn. But I have not seen emojis affect the quick apply that comes through when I view it as a recruiter.
Perfect. Great answer. I would completely agree with you.
So, hey, Andy, do you want to not share the screen anymore? And the
absolutely.
only reason I say that is because I did an entire webinar and I didn't realize that when I did that, I was like this big in the corner. And so people for an hour watching the recording see this little itty bitty face.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
I think that's very fair.
There was
a couple of questions.
There was another question about should you personalize when you're connecting with people? So I test it 50-50. Now I think I'm in a different position because I have built a warm audience over the last year. But if you're just getting started, I highly recommend that you personalize it. pull something from their profile that you connect with and reference that with a little bit of why, but not because why you want them to help you get a job. Make it them focused and, be it just, you don't want to be in that spammy, like, I want to connect with you because I want you to refer me into a hiring manager. Organically, you want to get to that point, but you have to earn the trust by supporting their content and being focused on them first before you make an ask.
Yes, earn the ask.
I would agree with that. I would add to that, Anna, that in certain circumstances, because you may not have the luxury of time to build a relationship over 3 months if there's some hot job that you're like super interested in, right? So in those cases, just be transparent. Don't be fake about, oh, hey, I just thought I'd connect with you. And then tomorrow send them another message that says, hey, I loved this about your profile, by the way. Right? I just be straight transparent on the front end and just be like, hey, my name is Barbie. I've been researching for a connection at such and such a company. I see that you used to work there. I'm incredibly interested in this position. And I wonder if there's any connections you would be willing to share with me so that I could blah, 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 blah. Right? Like, I am all about somebody being honest and transparent with something they need. I would be much more willing to help that person than I would be the person who sends me the hi.
Oh, yeah.
Then the next message is, how are you? I'm like,
and then I get you have really beautiful teeth. And I'm like, block.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's creepy.
No, and I think that's a great strategy, being to the point, but, again, I think a lot of people that are employed are maxed out right now. And sometimes it's hard for them to wrap their mind around, why they should help you. And if you can compliment them first, like I looked at your profile and it looks like you've been with such and such company for 5+ years in 3 position. I'm looking to pivot from retail into software sales. Can you tell me a little bit about your career? And then again, kind of making it focused about them, but then say, I've had my eye on X company. They have a reputation for hiring great talent, that type of language. Just don't send your resume and say, let me know if you have a match.
Right. Right.
I wouldn't even send them a resume.
Yeah,
absolutely. And the algorithms on LinkedIn actually pick up when you connect with somebody and immediately send them some kind of message that says, thanks for connecting or something. But again, earn the ask, don't go straight for the kill. It makes you seem super spammy. So I completely agree with what you ladies are saying. We had a couple of questions. Somebody asked if I'm only advising on resumes or if I write them with you. So we actually pull up your resume on a Zoom call and we go through it line by line together. And so we rewrite it right there. And that seems to be the best approach for me. When you're doing profiles, are you doing them together? Or are you just kind of doing a review? How does that work with you, Anna?
So when I do a LinkedIn audit, I actually use Loom and I record the video giving them suggestions. It's ranging from 7 to 15 minutes on some best practices. And then they get a follow-up one-on-one hour session with me to field questions. They can make the changes. And then I can answer any other questions about best practices on LinkedIn. So it's a really good use of your time. And before you make changes, I always recommend that you screenshot what you have now so you can look back and see how your profile views have increased and really start figuring out like what helped do that on your profile.
So great. I love it.
I think Lucic had a question.
Absolutely.
She sent it to you in your DM.
She sent it to me.
She said she sent it privately. I'm trying. It's hard to keep up with the.
It
DMs.
is. Okay, I got one. This one's for you, Anna. Question about branding. What if we are in career transition, and not entirely sure what our next role is? How do they create a brand?
Well, first is to get some support from one of us to get some clarity and, bring down at least, three main things that you're passionate about, and then start building from there. I think if you're in that space of uncertainty, that I would lean into that commenting strategy first, and then pay attention to how you're commenting, because that's going to be the secret sauce of really showcasing that leadership voice, right? If you find a common theme that you're, talking about, a certain topic in your niche, then it's like ding, ding, ding. That's a sign to tune into that. And maybe that's the direction that you need to go. But that's the power of having the support of coaches like us, that we can help you see things that you can't sometimes see yourself. I have a coach myself.
Absolutely.
So it's utilize the opportunity to have the 30-minute discovery calls with us as well. We can accomplish a lot in a short amount of time.
Absolutely. Great answer. Now, French, I don't know what your real name is, but you're on as French, said, if you're applying for multiple positions, do we recommend that you have 2 different resumes? Absolutely. Now, here's the catch. When you have, if it's like dog walker and chef and they don't go together, you're really going to have a struggle here on your LinkedIn profile trying to create a consistent, cohesive brand. So you're going to need to kind of decide a direction, but there are ways to integrate it. So LinkedIn would be a broader spectrum and have all of your keywords, but you would want a targeted resume. And what we recommend is using the naming convention like Andi.Cook resume. And then if I apply to Toyota, it would be Andi.Cook Toyota resume. So if you come across another position, you're like, oh, that's like that Toyota position, you immediately can go back and then change the name and pull that same information. There's also ways through text blades and quick parts to make that quick. And I have videos on my YouTube channel about that. But definitely I recommend having separate resumes, because it goes back to trying to sell somebody a minivan that wants a sports car. So.
And just make sure you save your file name, the electronic file name of your resume, in a professional way.
Yes, absolutely. Same with email addresses.
Hey, yes, girl, that's where I was just going to. And the voicemail greeting on your phone.
Oh,
yes.
Heavens. Yeah.
So
did you see that video I put out about that? Because it makes me crazy. Please do not preach to people on your voicemail greeting. Don't talk about scripture verses. Don't have thumping club music playing in the back. Don't
have your 3-year-old answering the phone.
Yeah, true. And don't do the trick of where you're like, hello, hello, hello.
Yeah, that's not cute.
Don't do any of that. As Anna mentioned, recruiters are flying through trying to get stuff done. If they've taken a moment to call you and they have to sit and listen to a minute or 2 of a voicemail greeting until they can leave you a message, they're going to go click. They're not going to do it.
Yes.
So,
and if your email address contains an adjective, change it. It's really that simple.
When you get the call from the recruiter or the hiring manager, the best practice is to answer the phone and say, this is Anna, this is Barbie, this is Patty, instead of hello.
Yes.
Yes.
So yes, professionalism is not underrated. Professionalism, oxygen, those are kind of the things in life that are not overrated.
Yeah, agreed.
So
we have another question. How many times in an interview HR is asked for a reference check at company, which is risky for the employee? How to reply to HR about that?
Yeah.
I'll let you take that one, Barbie.
Yeah, I can take that one. So if you're asked for reference checks, there's a couple things. Typically they should get them in writing from you, which means you have the power to give them only the names and contact information of people you're comfortable with them talking to.
Right.
References should only be provided once an offer has been made. And you need to coach your references. Talk to them. Make sure they know the job you're applying for. What are some of the key points of the job you're applying for? Mm-hmm. And what do you need them to share with that person? And you're not asking them to lie, you're not asking them to make it up, but you want to help guide your references so that they're not caught off guard And they're, most people are honored when you ask them to be a reference for you. And you can just simply tell them, like, here's the job. I'm super excited about it. They're really interested in people who have strong data analytics background. And so if you could share with them the project we worked on together and how you thought I handled that, it would be great. That's all you have to do.
Yes.
And then I think sometimes, employers may ask for references too early in the process.
Yep.
And you can hold back on that until you've been through a couple rounds, because again, it's just a way, it's a next step in the process. Like, I've interviewed you, my hiring manager has interviewed you, I've debriefed with you, like you're interested in the role. And then that's when I would check the reference to make sure all the dots connected. Now, I will tell you, unfortunately, that there are a lot of recruiters out there in hiring authorities that don't check references. But if you have good references, like, offer them up, encourage them to do that, because again, that helps them market you, helps them advocate for you. If there's pushback with the hiring managers, then I can say, well, Barbie, this reference said this about this candidate, which may rank this person better than that person. And it's a great way to increase the opportunities and close deals too.
So I'll tell you why we don't check references at our company, because of, this is like kind of where we go with it, but because nobody is going to say they hate me, you should call them. So
Yeah, well,
I want to dig a little bit deeper and try to find out more details. And so, especially if we have a mutual connection. So I would say absolutely think about who you're giving. If it's your neighbor, guys, don't do it. Don't do it. Be honest, have integrity, because if I am checking references, and when I was a recruiter, I wanted to ask questions that would really indicate, did y'all work together? And so I'm going to ask something weird that they're not prepared for. Like, so where did they sit in relation to you? Like, that I want to know, is it somebody you're having stand in for that? And so I will say this, along with every other part of your job search, always have integrity. And if I came to you and said, hey, I'll give you $100,000 a year, all you have to do is give me your integrity in return, you're going to tell me I'm crazy. But so many times people will lie on a resume or change dates or have people stand in for, whatever. And you're selling your integrity, and it always, always, always catches up. So I'm going to leave that there, but kind of wanted to address that as well.
We had another question about references in regards to if they ask for references in the initial application. Yeah. My response is going to be, say yes, but just know that they're typically not going to check them until the end of the process. So that would trigger you to reach out to your references and say, I'm actually in process with this company, versus having to tell your references every position that you've applied for where you've said, right, yes, you can check my references. Mm-hmm. So.
And you don't want to like bombard your references either.
Right.
Where like 15 people are calling them. And
yeah. And the other thing to remember too is most companies will only provide minimum information for liability purposes.
Totally.
So they will tell the dates you worked there,
if you're eligible
to rehire. That's mm-hmm. really it. So again, you do have more control than you might realize by curating a solid group of good references, and right, you get to choose who that is.
Love it. Mm-hmm. Love it. Love it. All right, guys, it is 1:30. And if you have questions, I want you to reach out to Anna, Barbie, or myself. We are all very active on LinkedIn, as well as my website is maximizeyourjobsearch.com. Anna, yours?
Anna Morgan, careerbff.com.
And Barbie?
BarbieWinterbottom.com.
Very good. Yours is the easiest.
I'm just not ready to give up my name and career BFF yet.
No, I love
we'll
it.
See where it goes.
You are the career BFF, Anna. No, and mine is like 4 years long, but it sounded really good at the time. Yeah. So we have purchased the domain myjobsearch.org. We just haven't integrated
Urban, how you feeling over there? He was just like,
yeah, he's like, this is a lot of energy in one room.
So schedule time with us, don't take your foot off the gas between now and the new year.
Absolutely.
I got featured in the LinkedIn kind of news the other day because I commented on LinkedIn content. So
Love
also
it.
keep your eye on that LinkedIn news feed, because if you can make a high level comment, you can get some visibility really quickly and easily.
Yeah.
But there's lots of awesome things on LinkedIn. So just
Very
keep
good.
practicing and keep engaging.
Well, thank you all for joining us. Watch our news feeds because we will do something together soon again.
Absolutely.
So thanks for joining us, guys. Merry
Happy
Thank you all so much
holidays,
for hosting.
everyone. Thank
Happy
you.
holidays, Merry Christmas.
I hope to see you all
Bye.
soon. This was super fun.
Merry
Thank
Christmas.
you, ladies.
Merry Christmas. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy holidays. I need
Right.
some more coffee.
Right. I know. I'm over here with my tea.
Hey,
I got to put some clothes on. I have this t-shirt on. It's like 30 degrees in Atlanta right now.
You know,
My
I can't
toes
do
are
the
like
phone.
ice cubes in my little Ugg slippers over here. Anyone else wearing slippers?
Maybe.
Same. Yeah, exactly. I don't think I've worn high
There you go.
heels in like 6 months.
Right.
Anna, and is Barbie still on? Is Barbie
I
gone?
may have
think
lost-
Barbie jumped off.
Okay, so I had Anna, I met Andi yesterday when she did her interviewing strategies, and I'm going to put this out there. I can send a link to you because I'm going to join in on your fun party. I think it's at 4. But
4 Central, 5 o'clock Eastern. Mhm.
perfect. I am part of it's called the Greater Milwaukee Professional Organization Networking Group, and I am their event calendar coordinator. So what we
Okay.
try to do is I found, and I'm just searching online, and if you have any free webinars coming up,